F124 Driver Career Mode Season 1, Round number 14, the Brazilian Grand Prix. Going into this one, we don't have any R&D upgrades going on the car. We're trying to kind of work on adapting some parts at the moment and didn't quite have the money to adapt the ones that I wanted, so we will do that next time. Of course, we had a mechanical failure in the USA last time at COTA, and it was the MG UK that went kaput again. So we've had two MG UKs die this season, which is just crazy. The same part has died twice, so we're going to have to put a new one of those on the car. We're also going to put a new control electronics on as well, because that's almost worn too, so we're going to have to do that. This time I did it after practice, so that the grid penalty will actually go through. I wasn't sure going into this. Looking at R&D here, no changes at all, apart from Alpine slightly jumping up ahead of the back group. But I wasn't really sure, whether this would apply for the sprint or for the main race. I'm pretty sure in real life, if you do a penalty, going into the sprint race, but it's a sprint race weekend, but you've obviously also got the main race, pretty sure you still get that penalty for the main race. I'll say right now though, in this case, wasn't the case. These 20 place grid penalties, which is what it is, so we're starting from the back of the grid, even if we get pole position in the sprint quali, it's only for the sprint. So I don't know if that's something, I don't know if it's supposed to work like that, but that seems a little bit kind of like, well, you might as well do your grid penalties on a sprint weekend, because, losing out on points in the sprint is less of an issue than losing out on points for the Grand Prix. So I'm not really sure how that works. I'm trying not to do the whole thing in here where, we, like I did last time by accident, where you put the new part on before practice. That means that the grid penalty doesn't go through. I'm trying not to do that because that feels like cheating to me. However, this way with the sprints, I think it is what it is. You're still getting a grid penalty. It's for the sprint, not for the race, which I think is a bit cheeky, but that's how the game's coded, so I'm just going to go with that for future. I mean, I won't purposely leave grid penalties specifically for sprint weekends, but if it does happen to coincide like that, then it is what it is. We're going to cross the line of the sprint. P3, good time for us actually. Alonso is there in P2. Of course, so we're going to be right down the back of the grid. Lando Norris on pole position for the sprint race. So let's see how this one goes. It is the Brazilian Grand Prix sprint to get us started this weekend.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Fernando Alonso completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Sainz, Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Russell, Hamilton, Albon, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Joe, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Sargent and Shaw. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
Here we go for the sprint race in Brazil. Of course, it's back-to-back sprints here. Texas, next round we're in Las Vegas. That is not a sprint weekend, but then we finish the season in Qatar with another sprint weekend. So lots of sprints to end this season. We're underway here. Decent start for us. We're going to go up the inside of Sargent in through turn one. Very, very tight through here. I actually get up on the curb there and have to kind of back out a little bit, but we do manage to still get ahead of Sargent, and we're actually going to have a little look on Yuki Tsunoda in the RB as well. We're going to be side by side as we go down to the next corner. A little bit careful on the brakes there, but we managed to get our car alongside. Tsunoda's still going to though keep there on the outside onto the curb. We give him enough room and we're just about going to get past him. So that's two positions in the first sector of this lap. We're then going to dive up the inside of Ricciardo as everybody slows down a lot into this section here. Give him the room, of course. We want to be racing fair here, but unfortunately we just don't have the grip around the outside at that point in time. We have to settle for P18 for now, but it's been a decent enough start here. Two positions made. Whether we can get to the points in this sprint race, of course, only top 8 scoring in the sprints. Whether we can get to the points here in the sprints, I'm not really sure. It could be a bit of a push, but we've made a decent start at least, So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I think it is going to be difficult to get to the points, but we're at least gonna go for it here because our pace, at least in quali, seemed pretty decent. Now, looking at Max Verstappen in third place here, Lando Norris has kind of stormed away into the lead of this sprint race. Verstappen goes for a dive up the inside of our teammate Fernando Alonso into turn 1. Alonso is going to fight this one though, and these two great drivers gonna go side by side. Verstappen does just about get ahead, and I think he has a DRS as well, but now Carlos Sainz is now looking at getting past Alonso and also sneaking his way up the inside of Verstappen as well. So Alonso's now down to 4th, and it's now Sainz versus Verstappen, and Sainz gets ahead and up into 2nd place, so good work for him. Further back at that same point in time, Sergio Perez trying to make some moves here on George Russell into turn 1. Now, George Russell, surprisingly enough, the only driver here to go onto the medium tyres for the sprint race. Of course, sprint race not expecting to stop at all. Russell, though, is on the medium tyres, so I don't know what that's about. Everybody else is on the softs, and it's only a sprint race. We're not going to stop. The soft tyres should be perfectly fine as Perez muscles Russell out of that position. But yeah, Russell on the mediums, don't know what that was all about. Very strange, as at that same point in time, end of lap 2, a lot going on at the start of the sprint race. We are now trying to get past Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to the inside. We do a purple final sector, so showing some good pace here. Used a bit of ERS there. A little bit tight there, but he gives us the room. Good racing between myself and the Australian. We can't quite get past at that point, but we're still on the outside. And we're going to try and now go to the outside and get the position into the next corner, and we're going to get that done on the brakes. We're past Daniel Ricciardo. We're up now into P17 on lap number 3, but we have another mechanical failure. It's another mechanical failure. We had one in the main Grand Prix last time out. I'm looking back just like, what is going on? Looking at the smoke pouring out the back of this car, and that is technically back to, well, it is back-to-back DNFs. Back-to-back mechanical DNFs. It was, of course, a mechanical DNF in the United States Grand Prix main race, and it is now a failure here in the sprint for Brazil. So back-to-back, if it's, I guess it's better for it to happen here than in the main race. Of course, in the US, it happened in the main race, but here it's happened in the sprint, so hopefully that's the last of it now. That's 3 mechanical DNFs so far this season. Not what we wanted at all. And that's going to make things even worse for us because, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of karma. Of course, we took those 20 place grid penalties for the sprint race, started at the back of the grid, but now we're going to have to change the energy store. That's the thing that went. And it was a pretty new one as well. I mean, we'd already taken out an extra one of those, and that was actually the part that I took out for the US Grand Prix, but didn't get given a penalty. So, hey, maybe this is just karma for all that. Sure, I guess it kind of evens itself out. That does mean now, though, that we're going to have a penalty for this main Grand Prix. It's only going to be a 5-place grid penalty because it is the second kind of new part. There was only 2 original parts for the control electronics or whatever it was that I've taken out. We had already taken a 3rd, didn't get the penalty because of that whole glitch thing. We have now taken a 4th, but that's only a 5-place grid penalty. So, yeah, it's all kicking off here in Brazil. We managed to actually top Q1 here for the main Grand Prix qualifying. So once again, showing we've got good pace on these soft compound tyres. And as we get through Q2, we're just going to continue to have that good pace. I do love Brazil. I love Interlagos. It is one of my favourite tracks to drive. It's short, it's snappy, it's fun. You've got the big straight here that's not really a straight, but it's very fun to drive. Just the whole track's really quite fun, all in all. As we cross the line, they're not quite as good of a time in Q2, only P6, but we're still just ahead of Fernando by a 1/10 of a second, who is there in P7. Big shock in Q2, I guess, is that Lewis Hamilton does not make it through to Q3. Esteban Ocon is the one that does make it through there in the Alpine, so good for him. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton actually had a few times this season where he's not made it into Q3, so a little bit surprising. He's been a bit all over the place, Hamilton. I think he won a race in Canada, didn't he? And but the rest of the season he has been, well, I don't know, he's been pretty good. He was at one point second in the championship. He has fallen back a little bit now though. I'm not sure if he's down in like 4th or something at the moment. I believe he's just ahead of us after we dropped down because of the mechanical failure last time out in the USA. But yeah, very topsy-turvy season for Hamilton. Continues to possibly get worse here with that Q2 exit as we are continuing on here in Q3, trying to get a lap time down after our first run, sitting P8, so it's okay, but it's not great. We're ahead of Ocon, which is really to be expected. I should be ahead of Ocon. Also ahead of Perez, which, you know, Perez's form's been a little bit all over the place, so fair enough. And our car is supposedly just a bit quicker than the Red Bull anyway. In the end, it's P7. We get ahead of George Russell as well. Fernando Alonso's P3. It is Oscar Piastri on pole position again. He's putting in some great performances this latter half of the season, with Sainz as well there on the front row once again. But with that penalty, we're going to be down in, I believe, P12. So it's going to be P12 for the Grand Prix for us, right in the middle for this next race. So let's see how things go for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
Formula One returns to Interlagos once again, with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his 3rd championship here in 2012, and just 4 years later, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. We're racing today then at Interlagos, a historic 2.7-mile circuit and one of the few anti-clockwise tracks on the calendar. 15 corners in total, 9 to the left and 6 to the right, with a technical middle section opening up to a flat-out Sector 3. That gives us our best passing opportunity down into Turn 1. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, Russell, Ocon, Perez, Hamilton, Gasly, Sainz, Shaw, Albon, Zhou, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Bottas, Sargent, and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So Sainz actually also has a penalty from P2 on the grid. He starts alongside us in P11. So let's see how this Grand Prix can go. Off the line here, we've got Gasly ahead of us, who doesn't have a particularly good start. It's a good start for Sainz though, as we're already alongside Pierre Gasly into turn 1. A little bit of contact there as he bashes into us through that first corner. We're going to try though and sneak up the inside of him and get the position. Hung out a little bit to dry there though, just having to be careful of Sainz up ahead. But I think we've just about managed to sneak our way ahead of the Alpine up into P11, so that is a position gained already. Sainz has also had a good start there ahead of us, so I guess the main one up ahead who's probably going to fall back eventually is Esteban Ocon. He is the most out of position here, currently sitting in P7. We're going to though go for a dive up the inside of this corner. Like I said before in the sprint, the AI do tend to brake, especially at the start of the race. They all brake and don't really try going for moves there, so it is quite an opportunistic place to get a move done, and we're very opportunistic there, up on the curb trying to get past Carlos Sainz. Unfortunately didn't quite work, didn't quite have the grip, trying to maybe do a little bit of a switchback, but no, nothing really doing there. We're all over the back of Carlos Sainz here, you know, new energy, new control electronics I believe it was, new components on our car, so gonna try and use those to the best effect, and we're already going round the outside of Sainz into turn 1. A little bit of a lock-up for someone up ahead. Sainz manages to just about outbrake us, but we managed to get the position. Without DRS, it is a pure overtake on Carlos Sainz on this first lap, onto the second lap should I say. Logan Sargent down in P18, yeah, not a lot going on for him other than a smoking engine. Lap number 3, same lap in the sprint that we had our mechanical failure. This time though, it is Logan Sargent, still pointless in this season, and he will be the first retirement of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc showing some very good pace here. He is on the back of Fernando Alonso. He's alongside Fernando Alonso. He's ahead of Fernando Alonso as they head through the next section. Once again, it's a McLaren kind of buggering off at the front. This time though, Oscar Piastri from pole position had a great start. He's already got a couple of seconds over the cars behind who are fighting. We now have Lewis Hamilton ahead of us, who, yep, has been struggling a little bit. We outbrake ourselves a bit too much into turn 1, a little bit too opportunistic there for us, and it doesn't really work out. And we have to kind of check back up on signs behind us. Charles Leclerc still there. Look at that gap though to Piastri. It is a rather large gap for this early on in the race. Lap number 8 now. Fernando Alonso now going to come back at Leclerc again, because that big kind of front straight, I guess you can call it, that the start finish line with DRS zone, it really brings cars close together. And if you get overtaken into turn 1, you then get overtaken into turn whatever that is, like turn 4 or 5, because you don't have DRS. So Leclerc goes from P2 down to P4, as I think it was Max Verstappen gets ahead of him. We're still trying to get past Lewis Hamilton. We're showing pretty good pace here at this point in the race. Hamilton's going to go defensive into turn 1. Perez and Ocon are side by side up ahead. Hamilton manages to stay ahead of us for now, though. The AI very good at getting on the brakes through that corner. Perez has just slipped ahead of Ocon. We've got a great run out of this corner, though, out of the S's, and we're going to go up the inside of Hamilton. We're going to try and brake later than him, which we do. We're a little bit compromised by Perez up ahead, but we have got on ahead of Hamilton, and we're almost looking to see if we can do anything on Perez here, but unfortunately there's not enough room. We don't quite have the run. We've got to sit behind Checo for a little bit longer, but I'm sensing maybe a move soon. Ocon up ahead of Perez doesn't have DRS, so that's going to help Perez out here, who's trying to go for a move there. Goes to the outside, looks to the inside, but then Ocon locks up. We very nearly go into the back of Sergio Perez, and we then get kind of forced out wide there, and Ocon kind of squishes us back. You know, we try and get back on the track, but he's right there on the line. So that was a little bit awkward. We're going to now try and get back past Ocon again into the next corner, round the outside for us, and we're going to get past him. A little bit frosty there. Just didn't quite get the move done on Ocon earlier on. And yeah, a bit of a scary moment coming back onto the track there with that wobble from Esteban. And now we're going to go for the move on Sergio Perez up the inside. No DRS for him. It's a pretty easy move in the end. Defend the racing line. And we're now up into P7. So we're now back to where we actually qualified in the race before our penalty. At the front, and Verstappen is trying to get past Leclerc. Unfortunately, Alonso's fallen back a little bit. He's now down in P5, also behind Lando Norris. And it's Verstappen and Leclerc fighting for this P2. Piastri's 2.7 seconds up ahead in the lead, so he is commanding this race at the moment. Leclerc gets overtaken by Verstappen, and now he's going to get overtaken by Norris as well. This is what I was saying, being in P2, getting overtaken in through turn 1, you don't have the DRS in the next zone, and you often lose another position. That's what's been happening here. Hamilton is eventually going to get himself past Ocon up to P9. Sainz right there behind them as well to see if he can do anything too. Norris is now going to be the next one to have a go at that second position, and we're probably going to see a similar thing here once again, although Leclerc is a bit further back here. Norris goes up the inside of Verstappen into turn 1. Verstappen's gonna fight through the S's section. We see this a lot, but I believe Norris is gonna have the DRS. Yes, he does. Leclerc has now caught right up to the back of these guys, and you can see Verstappen hasn't got his rear wing open. Leclerc's gonna go around the outside. Verstappen's gonna fight it, and he is actually gonna defend it. So good work from Max Verstappen there, really getting his shoulders out and defending that position. Lap 17, we're coming into the pits for our pit stop onto hard compound tyres. Seems to be on this game, the only strategy option when there's no safety car is medium to hard. And I will just mention, we haven't had a safety car in quite a while. Start of the season, we had quite a few dings and, you know, people running wide and crashing and stuff. It's been a very quiet second half of this season in regards to crashes and safety cars and stuff. So, don't know what that's all about. I mean, I've even got the safety car and red flag settings set to, you know, most likely. But unfortunately, yeah, not been a lot of action in that regard this second half of the season, so hopefully that can pick up in the last couple of races and into Season 2. We actually got the preferential treatment over Alonso in this strategy here, and we're actually going to undercut him with that pit stop. We're going to get out just ahead of our teammate, and we're now up into P5, so that has worked very well for us, although once Alonso gets up and going, we are 3.5 seconds away from Norris, so nowhere near having any DRS, and it means that Alonso can quite easily go around the outside of us, and we're not going to fight our teammate too much there into that corner. It's just not worth it, so we're going to let Alonso go past at that point. The battle for second is now a battle for first, because Piastri has lost time in the pits, and now Max Verstappen is going for a move, and he's pretty much got the move done into the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Now Max Verstappen leads. This has now become a 4-car race for the win here. It is Verstappen, Piastri, Norris and Leclerc all right there at the front. Now we're trying to see if we can maybe get past Alonso here again, because once we're now behind him with the DRS, we have good pace. So just seeing if there's anything we can do. DRS down the next section here. We're not going to go crazy on our teammate, but we're going to try and have a look to the outside. We don't want to, make contact with him or anything. He fights it a little bit, but unfortunately can't do anything, and we will get back ahead of our teammate once again. The fight at the front still continues. It's now Charles Leclerc going for the lead. Piastri's now down to 4th, so it just shows how much this can change, in this race, how the leaders can just, absolutely just shift around everywhere. And it's now Leclerc and Verstappen fighting over the lead, but they're side by side through a lot more of this lap than previous. Every other move's kind of been done through that first sector, and it's been pretty much line astern through the rest of the circuit. But these two are still side by side. They're absolutely giving it a ding-dong battle. The 2022 championship rivals, of course. Leclerc, I believe, the one trying to get ahead of Verstappen. I'm not sure. I think Leclerc's probably going to be the one to pick up the DRS here, because he is behind at this point. Yes, he is. So he's going to go to the outside of Verstappen. Norris is having a look as well. Piastri is actually diving up the inside of both of them, potentially for the lead. Piastri's gone from 4th up to 2nd, is fighting Leclerc for P1. He's on the inside of Leclerc. He's going to take P1 in this race. What a move from Oscar Piastri. P4 to P1. The most opportunistic of moves. Amazing stuff from the Aussie there. Verstappen's now down to 3rd. What a move that was. But then we're going to get a weird message.
Okay, mate, and that's Fernando behind. They are faster than you. Do you understand? They are faster than you. Let them through, please, mate.
What is this? We are getting the Fernando is faster than you radio message. I did not even know this was a thing in this game. The game is telling me the lap after I got past him that he's faster. Let him past. So I let him past. I thought, okay, I'll let him past. If he's faster than me, he can go off and fight these guys, which he kind of has done. We are now within a second of this group, so now it's all of a sudden become a 6-car fight for the win here in Brazil. It's Leclerc now into the lead of this race ahead of Piastri, with Verstappen, Norris, Alonso and myself all within DRS of each other. It is a 6-car fight for the win. That's pretty exciting, but I am a little bit annoyed because other than the pits where I got, to pit first, they've given Alonso preferential treatment here, basically. I've overtaken him. I undercut him in the pits. He got past me on track, and then I got back past him again, and then the team's gone, no, you need to let Alonso go again. I'm not really so sure about that. But we'll see how that unfolds in the latter parts, should I say, of this race. Because at the front, this is still going on. Me and Alonso are kind of we're in this battle, but the main kind of fighting here is really between the top 3. It seems to really be Verstappen, Piastri and Leclerc, the ones swapping positions all over the place. Norris, Alonso and myself are just kind of there in the background in case anything goes on. It's really just the top 3 though that are, switching around in this race. Lap number 30 on to 31. We're going to see if we can get back past Alonso, because I do not think it was fair that we let him pass. We're going to outbrake him into turn 1. He's still going to be there on the inside, but then he's going to turn into us. He turns into us into turn 2. What are you doing, Fernando? What's going on here? Is there some tension starting to brew between the Aston Martin teammates? this could get feisty in this latter part of the season. Maybe it's because Aston Martin know that I am looking around at moving teams for next season. The battles up the front still continue. Me and Alonso have lost a little bit with fighting each other, but we are still just about within DRS range. But Leclerc now to the inside. This is just some great racing between these top drivers, and Leclerc now back up into the lead. Just, it's hard to keep track of what's going on. We are still trying to just kind of aggressively get past Alonso, but we're being fair. He goes to the inside. We're very, very good here at the moment, but he brakes later, and then he just kind of veers. He veers to the right and pushes us, and kind of pushes us offline. What is going on here with me and Alonso? We've had great chemistry, great, racing with each other this season, but now towards the latter part of the season, he is not giving in. Look how defensive he's going into turn one. Once again, very, very late on the brakes and kind of cutting off our line. Things are getting frosty between us two. Now, heading on to the final lap of this race, we really only have 1 or 2 opportunities to make this stick now, but we are closer than we've ever been at this point. Coming down to the start finish line, we're going to use as much ERS as we can, go into turn 1 very late on the brakes, and this time we get ahead of our teammate up into P5, and that is where we're going to finish. The team told me to switch around. I did it, but then I got back past my teammate again, and we are going to bring home P5. We're going to beat Alonso in the Grand Prix, but things are getting feisty between us two. Not what I expected. It's been so calm and so good between us so far this season, but in the last stages of this season, tensions potentially brewing at Aston Martin.
And so the celebrations begin, and well earned they are indeed. It might have looked simple at times, but as any racing driver will tell you, competing at this level at the very top is anything but simple. There's no catching them now then. We have a new World Drivers' Champion. And Leclerc to the line, to the checkered flag. It's King Charles today. He wins.
Well, it all came good in the end for them, but it wasn't an easy start. Not the most straightforward of days, but I think it shows great strength in an athlete as a driver when you can overcome a day like this and walk away still with a victory.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today and a stunning win for Ferrari.
So Charles Leclerc is the winner of the Brazilian Grand Prix. That's his first win of the season. It's also Ferrari's first win of the season. They have not really shown really that great pace this season. Only a couple of podiums to their name as well, and I mean Leclerc and Sainz, to be honest, both of the Ferrari drivers have had quite a bit of bad luck with mechanical failures, with just some other stuff going on. So for Leclerc to finally get a win this season, it is very well deserved. Oscar Piastri comes home for another great result for P2, and it's Max Verstappen getting on the podium and with that clinching the championship for season 1. Max Verstappen is the 2024 Drivers' World Champion. He wins the championship here by finishing 3rd in Brazil. Just way too far ahead of everyone else. Looking at the race results, it was Lando Norris P4. I came home just ahead of Fernando Alonso, and no real surprises further back. Esteban Ocon does score a point though for P10. Sergio Perez ended up having a retirement, so he did not finish the race. So that's pretty unfortunate for him when his teammates just won the championship. But looking at the standings as well, we're now back up to 4th ahead of Lewis Hamilton by 7 points now. 8 points behind Fernando Alonso, who is 10 points behind Lando Norris. So still very much to play for 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship between Norris, Alonso, myself, Hamilton, maybe even Piastri and Leclerc can get up there too. Maybe Leclerc might be a bit too far back, but perhaps Piastri, I don't really know. And then in the Constructors, it's still very close as well, with Aston in 2nd, McLaren 3rd. I mean, it's still only 35 points to Red Bull in 1st. So the Constructors' Championship is still very much to play for. So we'll have to see how that goes in the last 2 rounds of this season. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.